start together. And on behalf of everyone, I'd like to thank the organizers, Mrs. Cherna Light and Mrs. Sterna Spritzer, for putting together this beautiful event, and really for the constant year-round inspiration that they give us on a regular basis. And also Zohar Sasson, special shout out for all your help and input and your involvement regularly. We're going to begin this evening by giving tzedakah and saying the Rebbe's Kapitel Tehillim, Kuf Yotes. And I'd like to ask Mrs. Rivka Belinov, a shlucha from Brazil, to please lead us in the Rebbe's Kapitel.
One second.
This is the beauty of the Zoom events. They're pretty reliable.
Okay. Hello. Kuf Yotes. Ashrei hasmimei darech hahelchem b'seres Adonai. Beis b'mei zakenar es orcho l'shmor kivarecho. Gimel avdecha echye ve'eshmera divarecha. No. Dalid, dafka le'afor nafshi chayeni kidvarecha. Hey, hareini Adonai derech chukecha ve'etzarena ekev. Vav, vivayuni chasadecha Adonai tishuascha kimrasecha. Zayin, zechar davar avdecha al asher yichaltani. Ches, chelki Adonai amarti l'shmor dvarecha. Tes, toy vasisa im avdecha Adonai kidvarecha. Yud, ידיך עשוני ויחוננוני, הבינני בעמוד מתפסך. כף, כל לשועסך נפשי לדברך יכולתי. למד, לאלם אדוני דברך ניצב בשמיים. מם, מה אהבתי צרסך כל היום היא שיחסי.
Wait, are we able to mute ourselves? That work?
נון, נר לרגלי דברך ואר לנסיבוסי. סמך, סעפים, סניסי וסרסך אהבתי. עין, עשיתי משפט וצדק, בעל תניחני לאושקוי. פי, לויס את ויסך על כן צרסם נפשי. צדיק, צדיק אתה אדוני וישר משפטיך. קוף, קרסי בכל לב, ענני אדוני חוקיך אצרה. ריש, ראי עני וחלצני כסרסך לא שכחתי. שין, שרי מדפוני חינם מדברך פחד ליבי. טוב, תקרב רינוסי לפניך אדוני כדברך הבינני. יחי אדוננו מורנו ורבנו מלך המשיח לעולם ועד. יחי אדוננו מורנו ורבנו מלך המשיח לעולם ועד. אדוננו מורנו ורבנו מלך המשיח לעולם ועד. Now capital Chaf, we ask Hashem for refuahs, yeshuas, and achamas, refuah shalema for all Yidden, Shidduchim, Shalom Bayis, Refos HaNefesh, Refos HaGuf, Parnasa, Zera Chai V'Kayama, Menuchas HaNefesh, Simcha Pnimis, and Shleimus Haaretz, and main thing, the Gula Amidas Vashlema with the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach, take of Miyad Mamish. Lam Natseach, Mizmor David, Yancha Adonai B'Yom Tzara, Le'Yakov, Yishlach Echa Mikodesh, Tzion Yisadeka, Yizkor Kol Men Chasecha, V'Olascha Yidashne Sela, Yiten Lechoch V'Chot Male, Yaner Na B'Shu Asecha, V'Shem Alehenu Nigdal, Ale Adonai Kol Mashalei Sech, Ata Yidati Ki Yoshia Adonai Meshichai, Yaneu, Mishmech V'Rechev V'Asusim, ואנחנו בשם אדוני אלוהינו נזכיר, המה קרוב ונפלו ואנחנו קמנו ונסעדות. אדוני הושיע המלך יעננו ויום קראנו.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Belanov. And hopefully everyone's given their tzedakah already, so we can begin. So Gimel Tammuz is a day that's all about his kashrus, very holy day, and it's about connecting to the Rebbe. And our very deep connection with the Rebbe as the Nasi Hadar, the Neshama Klalis, and like the Rebbe said, the Nasi Hadar is the Mashiach Shebadar. So how do we make this connection? How do we feel this connection in a deep way? And the Rebbe told us, like in every relationship, we ask the person what it is they want from us. The Rebbe told us that through learning his Tairas, through learning the Sichas of the Rebbe, the Maimarim of the Rebbe, that this is the way, the most direct way that we can connect to him. In more, in later years, the Rebbe really emphasized also a lot of learning the Inyani Mashiach and Geula. And all this has to be done in a way of bittul, that we connect to the Rebbe without any questions, without asking. If we understand, if we don't understand, it's really irrelevant. We have to try to understand whatever we can, but when something contradicts our logic, we have to just rely on the Rebbe's 20/20 vision, that the Rebbe sees and the Rebbe knows exactly what we are supposed to be doing and exactly what is right for us. So we shouldn't let our seichel get in the way. With the instruction that the Rebbe gave of learning in Yani Mashiach and Geula, I have to say personally, I didn't really fully internalize and understand the importance of it in connection with bringing Geula. I thought it was like one of the many things that the Rebbe encouraged us to do to bring Geula. Like, for instance, the Rebbe told us tzedakah shemekareves es hageula, that we should be besimcha, that we should do hafatza, we should demand Mashiach, that we have to increase in our acts of goodness and kindness. And of course, that we have to be mefarsem, the inyanim of Mashiach to the world. But I didn't see learning Inyani Mashiach and Geula as a separate, it was just like another one of these things. I didn't understand the importance to it. And Baruch Hashem, I had this chus to work together with an old friend of mine, Rifki Katz, and we worked together for the past year and a half on a Welcome Mashiach campaign. And through working on it, I ended up learning many more of the sichas on Inyani Mashiach and Geula. And at some point, there was kind of like an epiphany, a eureka moment, where I realized that the only way that we can awaken the yearning for Mashiach, the only way we can truly internalize the Mashiach into our das is through learning it ourselves. So learning in Yani Mashiach and Geula is like the absolute key for us to internalize and make the Anmasai real, make it with an MS, like the Rebbe said, he wants us to do it with an MS, to ask with an MS. So I'd like to encourage everyone to learn as much as they can in Inyani Mashiach and Geula. And I'd like to invite our first speaker, Rabbi Nissen Dubav, the Shliach in Wimbledon, England, to share with us some words of inspiration, chizuk, and connection to the Rebbe.
Good evening, ladies. Tonight's Gimel Tammuz. It's a day for all of us of reflection. Rosh Chodesh Kislev, Tavshin Mem Ches, my wife and I received the bracha to go on shlichus to London, England, to a town called Wimbledon. We went green, if that's the right word to use, and Baruch Hashem have built up whatever we have built up. But when we went out then, the Rebbe was sitting in his room, and we just received in the Rebbe's handwriting a blessing from the Rebbe, a bracha, and we went out completely empowered, not prepared, may I say, for the mission which lay ahead of us. Perhaps as much as people are prepared and have resource today, it was much less then. But nevertheless, one thing we felt is, ich fordach mit euch. The Rebbe's coming with us. He's sitting in his room. He's the powerhouse. And I think, certainly for myself, and I think this is an evening to share personal feelings, for myself, nothing has changed. Yes, Gimel Tammuz took place. Yes, physically, the Rebbe is not sitting in his room. But as a Torah Yid, we know that our beliefs are based on Torah's emes. And when Torah tells us that Ma lahalon oimed umeshamish, af kan oimed umeshamish, that just like then he served, he's also serving now. And as the Alter Rebbe writes in Tanya, Tzaddik de Ispata, that a tzaddik who moves on, he is more found in this world as beforehand. That is a reality. I once wrote a book called Judaism Key Facts, FAQs. The first chapter in the book was the proof of the existence of God. And one of the things which I quoted there was a famous letter of the Rebbe, which to prove something that exists, you don't necessarily need to see it, feel it, touch it, sense it in any way, like gravity. We see that something falls. We don't see the gravity or hear it or touch it or smell it with any of the senses. All we see is its effect. And I think that anybody who has eyes and a brain can see, b'moy einov, literally, if you just open your eyes, the huge, huge koyach, the import, the ongoing brachos and hashpois, which the Rebbe is giving us constantly. And for me, figuratively, the light's on in that room. And the question is not what's happening with him. The question is really what's happening with me. Have I changed? Am I growing? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? The world has changed. It's changed recently, big time. I don't think any of us at Rosh Hashanah time had any inkling of what was going to take place this year. But I think as Neshei Chabad, the very first thing which we need to know is that Yesh Manhig Lebirazu. There's an almighty God who is running the show, and it's moving in a direction, and that is, it's moving towards Mashiach. This, as the Rebbe said in numerous sichas, is the last generation of Golus and the first generation of Geula. And the world is literally changing daily, and we can see it. Big changes. So the very first thing we need to do as Chassidim is just to get into our heads that whatever is happening out there is a move, so that we can use the opportunity, as the Rebbe said, to prepare ourselves, our homes, our communities, and the entire world for the coming of Mashiach. Let's just have a look at some of those main changes that have taken place. The greatest obvious change is that Judaism has shifted massively into the home. Quarantine has put many of us home. I know in New York, the lockdown is getting easier somewhat. Here in London, we're still pretty much locked down, although things are opening up. And who knows how it's going to develop with new outbreaks. Hashem Yishmarenu. The fact is, however, how should a chassid digest this? The first thing is that this was a maneuver from above. Hashem, if you want, fixed his Shekhinah in the home. And who is the principle of the home? It's the Akeres Habayis. Hashem, if you want, has very much empowered the women of this generation to be the ones that are generating the revelation of the Shekhinah right in our own homes. And it's changed our lives in many ways. You know, simply speaking, you can't go out, or you couldn't go out, whichever situation you're in the world, simply shopping, buying a pair of shoes, going to the supermarkets, the stores, and so on and so forth. We had to find different ways of doing that. So instead, perhaps, of running around Manhattan trying to find something, we do online shopping. We've actually found so many different ways to save time through the, as we call it, the Birchas Hamazon, the blessing of Amazon, and through various other medium. We have actually found ways to accomplish tasks that otherwise had taken a lot of time. Simchas, although it would be lovely to travel and join in a simcha, Baruch Hashem, we've joined in many simchas by Zoom, and unfortunately, many sad occasions by Zoom. But it's brought us all together in a most phenomenal way. And the point which I'm trying to bring out is that all this has given us an opportunity to utilize that time at home to be creative and, in fact, to utilize this window of opportunity to focus on different things. It's that paradigm shift. It's that movement which has happened big time. Instead of perhaps consuming or even wasting a lot of our time on things, perhaps Hashem wants us to really focus on what we should be doing. First of all, chinuch atzmai, educating ourselves, learning, lachluches, taking in the beautiful moisture and warmth of Chassidische Farbrengens. To be honest, I can't think of a time when we've been saturated, if you want, by so many Chassidische Farbrengens and opportunities that we have nowadays. It's, if you want, Umala Haaretz Hisvaiduyos, the whole world has become full of Farbrengens. We're really spoilt for choice. And there's also Limud Im Hazulas, learning with other people as well. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Hikdim Refuah L'Maka, we have this tremendous Zoom and other social media outlets. I recently gave a shir in South Africa, and I was told that there were 2,000 people watching through YouTube Live and Facebook, reaching people that, first of all, I don't know, I probably never know, but Hashem has created a medium of how we can really be meifes the Mayonos Chutzah in a phenomenal way. But even if you're in the confines of your home, you've got perhaps more time for the family, learning with them personally, more time to do mitzvahs with them, to bake challah with them, to share a medrash with them, to learn a kli yakar with them, to share a hayom yom with them. This is a tremendous opportunity to have inner verbringens with the family, to have that hiskashrus which the Rebbe talks about in the Hayom Yom of Chav Dalet Sivan, B'mehi hahiskashrus elai, when a person has never seen the Rebbe, to learn the Rebbe's Torah, to join in with Anash, and the beautiful verbrengens which are going on. And all this has happened now with tremendous, tremendous expansion and great strength. And the Rebbe told us that we need to think half an hour every day about the chinuch of children, our own children. And this is a beautiful opportunity. We shouldn't be looking elsewhere. Being, if you want, in the home is directing us that we need to look inwards as well as outwards. What do they call it? In-reach as well as outreach. A fine balance, a careful balance. We need to know that the Rebbe said, Lahachin atzmoi, we need to be prepared, and we need to prepare our home, Makoimoi, and then the Rebbe said, V'chol ha'olam kuloi, whoever thought that they could have a reach to the entire world, today it's very, very possible. And the shift in terms of adult education is very much moving in that direction. That is where we need to be. I heard from Rabbi Mendel Gordon, who is the mashpia here in London, in the yeshiva. He said, what is the difference between Chassidish education and other educations? He said, in other institutions, they learn for 20 years how to communicate things. But after 20 years, they really don't have what to communicate. Whereas in Chabad Moistus, we spend 20 years learning what to communicate, and later on, we learn how to communicate it, or in my personal issue, you just ask the kids and they'll tell you. What we're saying is that Baruch Hashem, we've been blessed with what to communicate. It really isn't the place of Neshei Chabad to be the news feed for CNN, BBC, to let people know what's going on in the world. What we've been created and designated for is that we need to be the conduit of what the Rebbe said and giving that message out to ourselves and to those around us. But it's come with certain reminders, and I just want to go through 3 reminders. A reminder in deed, in action. One of the things which has come about through the coronavirus is the tremendous focus on hands, on our own hands. We know that a hand in Hebrew is called a yad, and that's because of the 14 bones in the finger, and 2 times 14 is koach, is power. We have tremendous power in our deeds. But I didn't know before COVID-19 came along about how much virus can be actually on our hands. And the whole idea of sanitizing the hands regularly throughout the day has its ruchnius dimension. It is that every day and many times a day, let's try and ask ourselves, is my ma'aseh, are my deeds in sync with what Hashem wants from me and what the Rebbe wants from me as a chassid? The second is the masks. It's an amazing phenomenon. I know here in London, you're not allowed to go on public transport without a mask. Everybody is wearing masks. It's as if our mouth has been closed. The Baal Shem Tov said that everything we see and hear has to be a lesson for us in our service of Hashem. It's obvious. We need to be very careful about our dibur. We need to be careful about Lashon Hara, Oinas Dvarim, Rechilos, using the Koach HaDibur for the right things. Putting our Koach HaDibur in Limud Torah, in Tefillah, in Chitas, in Tehillim, Zogan HaGut Vort, encouraging another person, lifting another person. That's where our dibur has to be. And when we go out and just look at this mask and that mask, perhaps every time we see one of those masks, we should use our own mouth just for the positive type of dibur, using it for Torah, Tefillah, and for Avos Yisrael. So that's Maisa, Dibur, and finally, Machashava, thought. One of the things which combats the virus the most is the immune system. There's a phenomenon over here. Even people who have the virus, a person can have the virus and yet not be affected. How is that possible? Reminders. A reminder indeed, in action. One of the things which has come about through the coronavirus is the tremendous focus on hands, on our own hands. We know that a hand in Hebrew is called a yad, and that's because of the 14 bones in the finger, and 2 times 14 is koach, is power. We have tremendous power in our deeds. But I didn't know before COVID-19 came along about how much virus can be actually on our hands. And the whole idea of sanitizing the hands regularly throughout the day has its ruchnius dimension. It is that every day and many times a day, let's try and ask ourselves, is my ma'aseh, are my deeds in sync with what Hashem wants from me and what the Rebbe wants from me as a chassid? The second is the masks. It's an amazing phenomenon. I know here in London, you're not allowed to go on public transport without a mask. Everybody is wearing masks. It's as if our mouth has been closed. The Baal Shem Tov said that everything we see and hear has to be a lesson for us in our service of Hashem. It's obvious. We need to be very careful about our dibur. We need to be careful about Lashon Hara, Oinas Dvorim, Rechilos, using the Koach HaDibur for the right things. Putting our Koach HaDibur in Limud Torah, in Tefillah, in Chitas, in Tehillim, Zogan a good word, encouraging another person, lifting another person. That's where our dibur has to be. And when we go out and just look at this mask and that mask, perhaps every time we see one of those masks, we should use our own mouth just for the positive type of dibur, using it for Torah, Tefillah, and for Avos Yisrael. So that's Maisa, Dibur, and finally, Machashava, thought. One of the things which combats the virus the most is the immune system. There's a phenomenon over here. Even people who have the virus, a person can have the virus and yet not be affected. How is that possible? I'm not a doctor, but I think the answer is that they have a certain immunity to it. They have certain antibodies which suppress it, even though they may be carriers. And that has also a tremendous ruchniistic dimension. And that is that if our machshava, if our thought process is in the right place, if we are positive, if we have bitachon and emunah, that itself, doctors say, strengthens the immune system and is one of the greatest fighters against the disease. And that's exactly where we need to be. Neshei Chabad, as the Noshim Tzidkonius of our generation, and as the Rebbe said so many times, the Gilgul of the generation that came out of Mitzrayim, What was their main quality in Mitzrayim? It was their tremendous emunah, it was their tremendous bitochen, and nothing has changed. Neshei Chabad today, their job is to ooze that tremendous emunah and bitochen that we're al saf ha'geula. We're in the final moments, and we just need to saturate our homes, our minds, and our hearts with positivity and with preparing the world and to do it in a way that only women can do, in a way of kavuda bas melech pnima, not, as the Rebbe points out, by conquering, but by warm nurturing. So, in summary, today's Gimel Tammuz, the Rebbe figuratively is sitting in his room, working away. That, by me, is a given. Whether it's the room, the oihel, to be honest, I don't understand these things, but one thing as a Pasha Yid which I do understand, is very simple, is that the powerhouse has got his foot firmly pressed down on the accelerator. The question is not about him, the question is about me. Gimel Tammuz, this is the day for me to get my act together. And how do I do that? Corona has moved the world on. I need to use the opportunity, be creative. Necessity is the mother of invention, of looking to use windows of opportunity to further the goal of the Rebbe, whether it be in-house or whether it be outside the house. I need to do it in a way where my masa, my dibur, or machshava, my hands are clean and sanitized, my dibur is clean and uplifting, and my machshava is positive and full of bitachon. And be'ezras Hashem, if we do all of that, we'll know that nothing happens by mikra, by coincidence, but mikra, mem, kuf, reish, hey, are the same letters as rak, me Hashem. This is divinely orchestrated, and we are moving. We're moving towards the Geula. It should happen b'kar of mamash. Today, in this awesome day of Gimel Tammuz, we should be zoicha liros es malkeinu, and imdu hachin kulchem. We should stand ready to hear what the Rebbe tells us to do next, and we should do it b'simcha u'b'meretz. We should hear those heilige words in Yerushalayim HaKodesh, in the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi, with Bias Mashiach Tzidkenu, B'Karav Mamash Mashiach now. Thank you.
Thank you to Rabbi Dubov for showing us how to really live with and to draw lessons from our current events, the current times around us, that we should open our eyes and see the Geula and live with the Geula with that kind of mindset, and to really use our machshava dibur maisa properly so that we can align ourselves with the Rebbe's mission. On Zayin Cheshvan and Tashim Mem Vav, the Rebbe asked that it should be publicized in the newspapers, the Radak that's at the end of Shmuel Beis, and I'll just read it to you in the English, that it says that all these thousands of people that died in the days of David, which was in a plague, it's because they did not demand of him, of David HaMelech, to build the Beis HaMikdash. Kal v'chaimer, we need to, we who had a Beis HaMikdash and had it destroyed, meaning the Bnei Yisrael. We need to beg Hashem 3 times a day that Hashem Shechina and Melucha, the Malchus Beis David, should be returned to Tzion, and the Seder Avaida, which is of the Beis HaMikdash, should be returned to Yerushalayim. So we see that the Rebbe wanted us to publicize that we need to use our dibur, we need to use our speech to demand Mashiach. And we, with our words, the Rebbe encouraged over and over again the saying of Ad Masai, and we want Mashiach now, and Yechi. And so when we do say these things, we need to do it with an emes. So we have our dibur, we know what to do, and we have to do it with an emes. We have to internalize it in our machshava. And finally, that brings us to Maisa, that the Rebbe, we come to this through our learning, but besides that, the Rebbe asked and encouraged the Rabbanim that they should sign Psak Din, that Mashiach should come. And also the women of Neshei Chabad were very instrumental and proactive in gathering signatures. So, so that we could ask and demand that the Rebbe reveal himself as Mashiach. And so we see that we have to use all our machshava dibur ma'aseh to really put our Iber Gegebenkeit in accepting Mashiach and asking for the Geula, and do it in a permanent, tangible way. Everything here is about connecting, and the best inspiration that we can have is, of course, from the Rebbe himself. So we have a Rebbe video to share with you, and we should be zeicha to hear it directly from the Rebbe himself, from the Rebbe's mouth tonight at this Farbrengen. I don't know what it is, but it's close.
Im Beis Hamikdash, was mit der Kirche gewähnt des Gula, aber viele, wenn dem Zufim ist, Mishtachvim Revochim, aber schaß mit der Monzach auf Nebesten. Bei Mehl ist mir doch sicher Mishtachvim zu den Nebesten, oder demol stehen alle Jiden, nicht nur in Zugott, dazu, wo sie stehen alle zusammen, in demselben Har Habayis, in demselben Migdash, Adne Kenen no Yodecho, stehen sie in einem Leben von Revochim, mit der Emesse Breitkeit, wo der Pfarrer sich damals noch größer die Simche und der Teilung und der Vergnügen, bis wann es am sagt, was Ardus Israel. Es scheint bei jedem von Ponnen, und das fehlt und nimmt ihn durch, sein Machshove Dibur und Maise.
Sorry, I was muted. And I am live, even though the other was recorded. I just want to say that seeing the Rebbe on video is a very bittersweet feeling because, of course, we want more. We want the Rebbe with us physically. Our next speaker is Rabbi Avtzin. He's the Rosh Yeshiva from the Lubavitch Yeshiva in Cincinnati. And he has been a front runner in spreading the Rebbe's message of Inyani Mashiach and Geula. Handing over.
L'chaim Chasidim, l'chaim, l'chaim. First and foremost, I want to bring to you fresh regards and brachas from our Rebbe. As it was getting closer for my time to speak, realizing that I am speaking on such a special day to such a special audience, the Rebbe's dearest Hasidim, the Neshei Chabad, knowing that my mother is amongst the audience here, it obviously gives me the jitters. Then how can I get up to speak, even if from my own home, to such an amazing crowd on such an amazing evening? So, like many times before I speak, I say a tefillah that the Eibishter Hashem Svasai Tiftach Ufiyagi Tehilosecha, and I open up an Igris Kodesh. So I want to share with you a letter that I received from the Rebbe at 9:11 p.m. tonight. The letter is in Igris Kodesh Chelek Yud Aleph, page Ayin Tes, where the Rebbe writes, Biprotiis Nanesi. More specific, I am enjoying so much that you are about to prepare yourself to speak before Neshei Chabad on this very special day. And the Rebbe says, V'hiratzin sheyavi lepoyel. It should be Hashem's will that your speech should lead to action. So we have with us the tremendous koyach and brachas that the Rebbe is sharing tonight with us by this Fabrengen. So l'chaim, l'chaim to each and every one of you and each and every one of us, l'chaim. It was 1977. The Rebbe had just suffered a heart attack on Simchas Torah, and Baruch Hashem miraculously recovered and was able to go to his house on Rosh Chodesh Kislev. While Hasidim were celebrating, and to them the crisis was over, the Rebbe went home. Truth be told, that there was a long recovery process that had to happen physically from then. And literally, almost daily, the Rebbe would have to take a walk from his house to 770, 1 block at first, 2 blocks, 3 blocks, to work on the strength of the Rebbe's heart. Accompanying the Rebbe on these walks was a young doctor. This doctor's name was Larry. We know him as Dr. Larry Resnick, the husband of Mrs. Molly Resnick, father of the young Resnick family. And I heard this story from Dr. Resnick, Oliver Sholom's son, Rabbi Yisrael Leib Resnick, the Rebbe Shliach to Tri-Valley, California. He told me that at one of these walks, his father, who had just been introduced to Chabad and had attended some of the Rebbe's Fabrengens, turned to the Rebbe and asked him, Rebbe, can I ask you a question? Which the Rebbe agreed. And he said, Rebbe, I come to your Fabrengens, and to me it seems like it's organized chaos. There are siches, there are nigunim, there are people jumping, there are people saying l'chaim, there are maimorim. It seems like 770 is aftishun av bank. There's chaos going on. And he says, Rebbe, who's in charge of the Fabrengens? The Rebbe got very serious, looked at him, and I'm going to paraphrase the words, but the Rebbe said, Dr. Resnick, I'm in charge of the Fabrengens. We have to realize that no matter what we see, what we hear, even though in front of our eyes we may see chaos, we may see things which are make us shake a little bit, we have to realize that the Rebbe is in charge of this Farbrengen. Whatever is happening to Hadassah Hasidim, and whatever is going on in the entire world, while to us it may seem unsettling and chaotic, the Rebbe is in charge of this Farbrengen. So tonight, by this special Farbrengen, which we have the personal brachas of the Rebbe for, I want to share with you some personal thoughts and feelings regarding Gimel Tammuz. This past Shabbos, we read the story of the Meraglim. Now, I feel that I'm no different than many of you. And I am sure that I feel just like you feel, that every year when I read the Parshas HaMeraglim, I get more and more aggravated. It doesn't get less. It only gets more. You read the Chumash, Yidden left Mitzrayim, they received the Torah, they traveled all the way to the border of Eretz Yisrael, they're about to go in, they send spies and they're they're really there. And then boom, it comes crashing down like only Jews know how to do to ourselves. It gets turned on its head. The Eibishter is trying to give them miracles. The Eibishter is trying to make the world in Eretz Yisrael a place easy for them to enter and conquer. And they come back with a disastrous report. And that leads to Bechio Ledoides. It leads to years and years of Yidden suffering. I don't know about you, but I know me, every year I read this Parsha, and it bothers me. How could they not realize what went wrong? As many siches and as many fabrengens, and as much as I hear and I know the answer, it bothers me year after year. They say a story that there was once an older woman that had never been exposed to Torah and Yiddishkeit. She lived in Russia, the former USSR, for many years. When she was finally released and she was able to study Torah, she took a Chumash and she started from Bereshis and she read the Parshias. And then when she reached Parshas Vayeshev, Miketz, she would cry every single day. And her children asked her, Mama, was weint ihr? Why are you crying? She said, I can't believe it. Look at this poor kid Yosef. He doesn't have a mother. His father's 100 years older than him, trying to give him some attention. His brothers are jealous. They sell him to Mitzrayim. They tell a story to their father about a coat. He gets put in prison. And day by day, she's reading the Chumash and she's crying and crying and crying for Yosef. Finally, Baruch Hashem, he becomes Mishnah Lamelech. The next year, she does the cycle again. And this time when it comes Vayeshev and Miketz, she's not crying. So her kids asked her, how come you're not crying, Mama? You're not crying for Yosef. So she said, oh, if he didn't learn his lesson from last year, I'm not going to cry for him this year. Certain things get old. Certain things get year after year. The Meraglim story, it bothers me so much. How could they miss out the opportunity? And this Shabbos morning was Shabbos Mevorchim. And I'm saying Tillim, and I'm thinking about the Meraglim. I'm thinking about the Meraglim. What could have went wrong with these Meraglim? And then it hit me like a bolt of lightning. This is not the true answer, but I want to share with you a feeling that I had. And this is what I realized. Now let's take it a second. Let's go back. What should they have realized? Think about it. Yidden left Mitzrayim. They've been telling their kids for 400 years. From Avram Avinu's time, 400 years. They're telling their kids that there's going to be a time when Yidden are going to come to Eretz Yisrael. They're going to go through a land that's not theirs. They're going to go through Mitzrayim. They're going to receive the Torah. And then we're going to enter Eretz Yisrael, father to son to grandson. This has been the Jewish message for 400 years. And guess what? These 12 people were the ones that actually actualized this dream ahead of the entire Klal Yisrael. They were in Eretz Yisrael, the land that was promised to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. They were actually there. They saw with their own eyes. They heard with their own ears. The Eibishter was performing miracles for them. The Eibishter killed out all the Mitzrayim, all the people in the Canaanim, so that they shouldn't focus on them. Wherever they went, there were funerals, and nobody bothered to look at them. And they should have came back and said, Chevra, we are going ahead. We've tasted the land that was promised to us. Instead, they came back and said, there's a coronavirus going on. This is a crazy era. This is a crazy place. Stay away from this crazy place. Don't ever come close. Distance yourself from Eretz Yisrael. What went wrong? The Eibishter's trying like this and they get the wrong message. What went wrong? And it finally occurred to me. What went wrong was that Gimel Tammuz happened. This was the first time in their lives since Moshe Rabbeinu took the Nesias that they did not see Moshe Rabbeinu. They were in the promised land, but they were missing the physical seeing, hearing, fabrengens of Moshe. And regular, normal people, when they are missing the sight, the hearing, the fabrengens, the dollars, the lekach of Moshe Rabbeinu, they can be in the promised land. They can be in Tavshin Pei. They can be in an era where Mashiach is active. And the Rebbe said about our days, Yemois HaMashiach shebehem nimtzoyim achshav. We are literally in Mashiach's times watching the miracles happening in front of our eyes. And instead of seeing the Geula that they're living in Eretz Yisrael, they see funerals and they see disaster. That's what happens to a normal person when they're not in physical vicinity of a Moshe Rabbeinu. But that was the test. Moshe Rabbeinu and the entire Klal Yisrael were waiting for them to come back and say, Toiv ha'aretz ma'oid ma'oid. If they would have said those 4 words, then there would be the Hisgalos of Moshe Rabbeinu in Eretz Yisrael. Unfortunately, most of them were normal people, and normal people, when they're not in the sight, in the hearing of Moshe Rabbeinu, they fall apart. And the great Neshei Yisrael turn into the Meraglim. But there were 2 exceptions. These exceptions were not people that were different on their own, but they had a special koyach that allowed them not to fall for the story and what they saw, and they held on. One was Kalev. Kalev ran to the oil. He ran to Chevron, to the caver of the Ovis. But more important, there was Yeshua. Now we all have to identify with Yeshua because we are just like Yeshua. We are the ones that the Rebbe appointed gave the shlichus to bring Klal Yisrael into the promised land. We are the Yeshua that Moshe Rabbeinu appointed. And when Yeshua was about to enter Eretz Yisrael, I want to tell you, they left on their shlichus on Chof Tes Sivan, 40 days before Tisha B'Av. I imagine around 5 days later on Gimel Tammuz, literally, they started realizing, hey, we're on our own. We don't see Moshe. But right before Yeshua left, Moshe Rabbeinu gave him a present. Moshe Rabbeinu did something which gave him the koyach not to fall for the natural tendencies, and don't fall for what Teva is showing you in front of your eyes, to see deeper, to see Eretz Yisrael, and not to see a land of funerals. What is it that Moshe Rabbeinu gave Yehoshua. He changed his name from Hoshea to Yehoshua. He gave him a special yud. He gave him a special koyach. Now we have to realize that b'chlal, we have to realize the koyach that Hasidim have, that we go with the Rebbe's name. I want to share with you a story that I heard last week, a story that I can't believe I never heard before. I heard this from one of my closest friends. I know this younger man for almost 20 years. This is a story that happened with his grandfather, and yet he never told it to me. I was very upset. I said, you have this story, and you never told me the story. For 20 years, I know you. Here's the story. I have a friend, a very dear friend. His name is Rabbi Yossi Grossbaum, and he's the Rebbe Shliach, him and his wife and family in Folsom, California. His grandfather passed away. His name was the Pinchas Krinsky from the Krinsky family. Not Kurinsky, Krinsky, from the Krinsky family. There were a bunch of brothers. One of them actually drove the Rebbe back and forth. And Pinchas Krinsky was a quiet chassid. One day, this is mamish after the Histalkus of the Friedrich Rebbe. Pinchas Krinsky, if I'm not mistaken, was a bocher. He had a friend that got very sick and was in a hospital. And not just in a hospital, he was in a coma. Out. The family of this friend called up Pinchas Krinsky and told him that Pinchas, go to the young Rebbe, go to the Rebbe's son-in-law, get a bracha. So he went to the Rebbe and he says, Rebbe, what do I do? The Rebbe's mamish, a young Rebbe. What do I do? I have a friend in the hospital. The Rebbe got very serious, and the Rebbe told him to go to the mikveh. Go to the mikveh, and then go to the hospital, and tell him. And the Rebbe said the Friedrich Rebbe's name, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, the Lubavitcher Rebbe wants you to come back. Go tell this. Says, keep on repeating it in his ear until he wakes up. He said, wow, this sounds crazy. So he runs to the mikveh. He goes to the hospital, and everyone's looking at him like he fell off the moon. And he's whispering in his ear, the Lubavitcher Rebbe says it's time to wake up. The Lubavitcher Rebbe says it's time to wake up. And guess what? After a few times, the guy opens his eyes, and he's all better. A few days later, this young Rebbe Pinchas comes running back to the Rebbe. And he says, Rebbe, it worked. Rebbe, he came back to life. And the Rebbe looked at him, and the Rebbe said, were there other sick patients in the hospital? And he said, yeah. And the Rebbe said, did you give them the message as well? And he said, no. And the Rebbe says, oi, you could have brought back all these people to life. You had the koyach. I gave you that koyach for this time. You could have brought them all back to life. We have a koyach that the Moshe Rabbeinu changed our mitzias from Hoshea to Yehoshua. And with this koyach, we can bring the whole world back to life. With this koyach, we can make a tchias hamesim of the entire world. The world is right now mamish walking corpse. They're like so, they're just dying of apathy. We have the koyach not just for ourselves, but to bring the entire hospital back to life with the Rebbe's koyach. We have the Rebbe's name inside of us. We don't realize the koiches that we have. The Rebbe gives us koiches. I'll share with you another fascinating story that I heard firsthand. You, whoever's sitting on this Fabrengen, has, I am sure, heard of Rabbi Yerachmiel Binyaminson, the executive director of Tzivos Hashem. I was speaking with him recently. We were sharing a small Fabrengen. And he says, Gershon, I have to share with you a story that happened with me personally. I said, tell me the story. He says it was 1 o'clock in the morning one night. There's a phone call in his house. The phone is ringing. So he picks up the phone and it's Rabbi Groner of Shalom on the phone. Rabbi Groner says, Yerachmiel. He says, yeah, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm calling you from the Rebbe's office. He jumps out of bed, a phone call from the Rebbe, 1 o'clock in the morning, Negovas and Moidani, a hat, jacket, gargle, who knows what he has to go. And he says, what can I do? What can I do? He said, Rabbi Groner said that he just got a call that there's a young child which is sick, deathly sick, and they're calling the Rebbe in the middle of the night. And you know what the Rebbe said? The Rebbe said this kid is registered in Tzivos Hashem. If the Anhala of Tzivos Hashem puts him up a rank, it will change his existence and he will become a healthy kid. If he goes up 1 rank, so he says, Yerachmiel, please, put him up a rank. It's Pikuach Nefesh. He says 1:30 in the morning. Those days, all the ranks were not on computers. It was on index cards. He ran to his office and put the kid's name up a rank. And he said one day he'll make sure the kid did something to earn the rank. He called back to the Rebbe's office, said the kid is up a rank. And then they got the message, the kid is out of Sakona. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Just the Rebbe's koyach lifting up a rank in Tzivos Hashem is a whole new mitzias for this kid. He's a gesunte kind. The Rebbe lifted us up a rank. The Rebbe took Hoshea and made him Yehoshua. The Rebbe took each and every one of us and gave us a Yud. But what is that Yud? What did the Rebbe do right before we went out on our shlichus on our own? And the Rebbe said, with this, you will not fall prey to the tainas hameraglim. With this, you won't fall prey to the natural feelings of Gimel Tammuz when the entire world is talking about a yard site. Can you imagine Mahoban al-Lebedik Rebbe and people are celebrating a yard site? But that's what people see. That's what people hear. How do we not fall for such things? How do we stand strong with our emunah? How do we not become one of the meraglim? How do we stay and go from Hoshea to Yehoshua? How do we go up a rank? How do we have the koyach to bring Tchias HaMesim to the entire world? And the answer is very simple. It's a very, very simple yud. Right before, moments before the Helen the Hester began, where we're in Yemais HaMashiach, but we don't see the Rebbe, which is so difficult. And the Rebbe is waiting for us to say, instead of Gimel Tammuz, instead of these days being dark days, we have to be strong that Toiva Aretz Ma'oid Ma'oid. We are in the generation of Mashiach. We are in the best times that Yidden have ever lived. We are on the cusp of redemption. That has to be the way we talk to ourselves, our friends, families, and communities. We cannot be Meraglim speaking of Levias. Instead, we have to speak about the greatness of the land, the greatness of the time that we're in. That is the report that we have to be giving over. But how do we have the koyach? How can we be so strong? How can we bring such chayas to the world? How can we bring everyone up a rank? And that comes with one condition. We have to change our name from Hoshea to Yehoshua. Inside each and every one of us, there's a yud. That yud is that pintele hiskashrus. That yud is the yichid that the Rebbe instilled in each and every one of us. B'mesiras nefesh mamish. That's inside our hearts. The Rebbe was mesiras nefesh. Day after day, a porch on the porch, waving his hand. B'koiches atzumim, with physical pain and physical mesiras nefesh. The Rebbe ingrained it in our hearts. We have to bring it out. We have to let that yud shine. We have to let that yud become a flame that changes our identity from Hoshea to Yehoshua. And when that happens, my Tayir Chassidim, we'll have the koyach to bring the entire world up a rank. We'll have the entire koyach to go to the entire hospital. The world is one big hospital now. And bring Tchias HaMesim to the whole hospital. But that comes with one condition, that we decide tonight that we are not victims. We are not living in terrible times. The Rebbe did not forsake us. And toiva haaretz ma'oid ma'oid ashreinu ma'toiv chalkeinu u'ma'noim doiraleinu u'ma'yafa Yerushaseinu l'chaim chsidim l'chaim Rebbe l'chaim de ganze Welt mizol zen erzeinenu liris es malkeinu the iskalus of the Rebbe Melech HaMoshiach takef u'miyad mamish l'chaim l'chaim.
Amen. Thank you, Rabbi Yafson, for the constant inspiration, for keeping us all totally focused on what's important and what we have to do. And of course, as you mentioned, Gimel Tammuz, the Rebbe said that Gimel Tammuz is Ischalta de Geula. And so that, of course, doesn't change. The Rebbe's words don't change. And so we will see that this day is Ischalta de Geula. Now we can all sit back and connect with a beautiful nigun. The nigun we know is not just a song, but nigun actually is the ability of the neshama to express and to articulate itself. The neshama has a chance to give something over. And so that's why actually by Hasidim we say zaga nigun, you should say a nigun. This is the highest form of musical expression, nigunim, and coming not just from the heart, but from the very depths of one's neshama. So we are truly delighted to be able to enjoy the gifts which Hashem bestowed on the very super talented musicians, and I hope I'm saying the name right, Dana Pashtan on the violin and Mirla Rosenberger on the keyboard. We got to hear them a little before, and we're going to get to enjoy them again now.
warm hello to everyone, in whatever time zone you might be. The purpose of Darkness of Gullus is to arouse and evoke light, specifically the kind of light that has the power to transform the very darkness into light. This is the light that stems from the indestructible essence in our soul. Those are the words of the Rebbe. The Rebbe saw the soul of every person, the potential in every individual. The Rebbe changed the world forever. The Rebbe changed the landscape of the Jewish future, our future, my future. My relationship with the Rebbe goes as far back as I can remember. He is always there for me, no matter what. The Rebbe really is, in fact, my daily oxygen. It's undeniable. During these bizarre times, my relationship with the Rebbe really took an even deeper turn. The Zohar teaches us that there is depth within depth. There is also what is revealed to us as Yidden and what is hidden to us. And even what is hidden to us has a deeper purpose. The Rebbe gifted all of us all sorts of people, all sorts of missions. In these times, what can possibly be our mission? Some of us were instructed to and have found our ways in trade and in commerce, as I have, and some have other missions. But what is so clear in these crazy times is what we all need to realize is that this is a cover-up for a much deeper vision. The Rebbe's vision. The vision is to spread light, the light of Chassidus, and to finally bring the Geula. How bizarrely perfect have these Corona times have been to dig deeper and to see once again that we are all here for that exact mission. Your mission and mine. Nothing else mattered during these times. We all begged and prayed and dug deeper. But for me, that digging goes beyond. Let me explain. My Rebbe is my life insurance. I have always leaned on the Rebbe for guidance and have always understood that being a child of the Rebbe is by far the best insurance policy. At age 15, I left home for Beis Chana in Worcester, Massachusetts, for high school, as there was no Lubavitch High School in Los Angeles where I grew up. Knowing I was going to the Rebbe's Maisid and physically connecting myself, even at the age of 15, I knew it had to be the right decision. I was leaving home, life at home, comfortable life, as a part of the Rebbe's school. It had to be okay. As I saw at home, just being a part of the Rebbe's union, the Rebbe's institution, the Rebbe's army meant safety. Fast forward 25 years, I felt it on my own skin that the Rebbe never gave up on me and I never gave up on my Rebbe. What is a daily reminder is all who connect themselves or have ever had a connection with the Rebbe will continue to always have one. A personal example of that is, funny enough, though not funny at the time, my oldest son, 12 years ago, had chronic strep. Chronic as in every 6 to 8 weeks, about 10 times that year. He had stopped responding to medication, and all the doctors, our pediatrician, as well as several specialists, we got a few opinions, as we know that's as the Rebbe advises, all had told us that we must remove his tonsils. I really couldn't think of putting him to sleep and having him go into surgery, let alone agreeing to a date. I just pushed it off. We bought a few weeks, and then he really needed to have them removed. But as I have always done in the past, I was writing into the Igris. I have to consult. Let the Rebbe know what was going on and what the doctors have told us to do, but regardless, whatever the Rebbe would advise and whatever the Rebbe would answer, that's what we would do. And just like I mentioned before, the Rebbe never gave up on me, and the answer I received, he clearly reminded me of that. The letter was addressed to a student of Rabbi Fogelman in Worcester, Massachusetts. In a few short but sharp lines that I really needed to hear, the Rebbe wrote that being a student of the previous Rebbe's Maisid, you surely understand what being a soldier is in an army. How a soldier takes orders from a general, and so too, doctors are sent to this world by the Eibishter to provide healing. And being a soldier, I should know what it means to listen to orders. That was my answer. The insurance policy was there. The safety net was there. We scheduled surgery, and Baruch Hashem, everything went well. He healed beautifully. The Rebbe proved once again that his connection to me is alive and well. How grateful I am. And as it's been proven time and time again, gratitude reciprocates. This is the case for every one of us Chassidim. We must know the truth, that all the instructions received ever, by seeing, by learning, by writing, by receiving brachas, whatever that connect is, all have the intent to reveal the inner core of Torah. As it says in Parshas Shmais, the well springs should spread outside. And then, when Moshe and the people shall sing, the "and" in this pasuk signifies ultimate connection. This pasuk uses the singular for the verb to sing, yashir, rather than the plural, yashiru, indicating that the people and the leader become one. Knowing that we are one holds me together. My relationship with the Rebbe is real and raw, and no matter what the current situation is, it's mathematical. I have been given the opportunity to be blessed with a relationship with the Rebbe. And any of us who have been blessed with being a part of the Rebbe's family, being the Rebbe's children, any one of us who has ever been touched by the Rebbe, which technically is the world at large today, we all have the opportunity to take the gifts the Rebbe has given us, the treasures and the revealed instructions. The Rebbe has ensured us, his Chassidim, his children, that simply learning his holy Torah, we are forever connected. As it said just a few weeks ago in the Hayamim, how easy is it to connect? We today have the power of technology. I do chitas and chayenu in less than 10 minutes. I just get a message in a voice recording, and just like that, I've been given my daily dose of oxygen. The Rebbe is everywhere. Even by just connecting in my very simple daily way, I've taken what the Rebbe has given to me and try to implement it daily. And at the same token, I return to my insurance policy. Baruch Hashem, I've been blessed with a healthy, beautiful family. But this, I remember, is not all my doing. This is with daily talks with my Rebbe, daily conversations, sometimes gracious and sometimes demanding. Even as I light Shabbos candles, I tell the Rebbe with chutzpah that my husband, my children, these and myself, we are the Rebbe's achrayas. We live each and every second, even though it might not seem so from the surface, but we do whatever we can to put a smile on the Rebbe's face. And therefore, the Rebbe must watch over us and protect us. It is very real and a raw demand. I have lived and continue to live this way with my Rebbe daily, in my own ways, and therefore the Rebbe needs to do his share. Some may think, how can you even think this way? But the feeling that I have, this feeling, the Rebbe himself gave to me. He never gave up on me, and I will never, certainly, give up on him. Tonight is Gimel Tammuz, and as we learn, Yeshua, on that very day, stopped the sun. Never before and never after did the world see such a phenomenon again. And as for we know, the entire concept of time is based on the sun. Time stopped. According to Torah, the Rebbe teaches us that truly the sun didn't stop. The entire universe stopped its shift and its tilt. The entire universe stopped. Now, today, we need to recognize as Chassidim that on Gimel Tammuz, our Gimel Tammuz, that we feel so much, we need to realize that the Rebbe shifted our universe. The Rebbe and his teachings and his leadership changed the entire universe forever, something the world never experienced before. The Rebbe has given us guidance, and through his works, we strive, we survive, and we gain. In the last years of Nun Aleph and Nun Beis, the Rebbe clearly stated that increasing in study of Torah in matters of Mashiach and Geula is the straight path to effort to the revelation of Mashiach and the final redemption. In these uncertain times, Corona times, as we are here streaming, there are riots, there are protests, the world is at an unease. We cannot hide from the truth. It's the time to put away our conceived notions aside. Let's not deny it. Let's revisit Nun Aleph and Nun Beis, the Rebbe's teachings. These are the words we have to live by. This is what we've got. I truly believe wholeheartedly that even in the times of distress, like in these past 4 months, the pain, the loss, and the hurt in all aspects of life, that the Rebbe, our Rebbe, will not leave us alone. He will not abandon us. I went on Amazon around Pesach time. I bought tambourines. They're at my front door. I am waiting because the Rebbe never gave us false hope. Let us finally be brave enough to say our Rebbe is here. Our Rebbe is here. We have nothing left but him coming as our Mashiach. I would like to conclude with a public, personal thank you. Thank you, Rebbe, for being the torch in my life. The torch which has allowed me to connect to others, to find their inner light. Thank you, Rebbe, for the guidance, the love, the reassurance, and the daily treasures. Because in life, you don't get what you hope for. You don't get what you wish for. You get what you believe. Ayeka.
Thank you so much, Maggie. That was beautiful. Your tremendous connection, your humility and accountability to the Rebbe, the real role model for many of us. And we learn how we have to be responsible. And we can't let the Rebbe down. So again, learning in Yani Mashiach and Geula is the key. That's what we all have to do. Before I saw scrolling on here, I don't know how, there was somebody had put on the chat the welcomingmashiach.com website, if they could put that on again. It's full of resources, and we have recently upgraded with resources that have many different places you can go, website, shiurim, WhatsApp groups, to just make it a hachlata of yours to learn every day a little in Yani Mashiach and Geula. Anyway, we now move on to our final speaker, who is joining us all the way from Melbourne, Australia, the Shliach, Rabbi Chaim Tzvi Groner.
Hello. Greetings from down under, and taking the cue from the previous speakers about the great koiches that the Rebbe has invested in all of us. I'd like to also make mention of the fact that the Rebbe spoke very strongly about the shlichus down under in Australia, in the Katzvei Tevel, in Mokim Rochik Dafke, and coming also from Chof Ches Sivan, which the Rebbe spoke about, is the day when the Rebbe came. The Rebbe says that this was the Indian of coming to Chatzi Kader HaTachten, which America is in comparison to Eretz Yisrael. And on a number of occasions, the Rebbe is speaking about Australia being the Tachten Shebe Tachten, because we are Chatzi Kader HaTachten in the sense of north and south, and that the koiches which are given for the Tachten to be able to also elevate and to hold up and to bring an aliyah into the Chatzi Kader HaElyon. And it's been spoken about the tremendous koiches that the Rebbe has invested in us, and we'll speak about that a bit later also. When it comes Gimel Tammuz, so memories of Gimel Tammuz 26 years ago flood our mind. The confusion that the world was thrown into, and Doirshei Reshumais, as is called, said that Gimel Tammuz is begematria v'tzorich iyun. V'tzorich iyun means that you have to investigate and you have to delve into the situation, as we find it in the Rebbe Siches. It's found in Gemara when you learn v'tzorich iyun. Gimel Tammuz is begematria v'tzorich iyun. We need to investigate what's going on over here. And this was raised then 26 years ago. The Rebbe set us all on fire. The Rebbe said that he gives man gulaschem, and that Mashiach is here, and we just have to open up our eyes. And even after Rachmana litzlan, the terrible day of Chof Ches, of Chof Zayin Oder, Tafshin and Beis, when the Rebbe suffered the stroke, Le'aleinu, nevertheless, after that, all the encouragement with Mashiach and Geula and Yechi, etc., picked up. It was a tremendous uplift at that time. Those who remember when we were zeicher to see the Rebbe on the balcony very often, and the Rebbe being mo'eded, encouraging the singing of Yechi. And then came Gimel Tammuz, Tavshin and Daled. So v'tzorech iyun. So of course, we all went back to Sichos that the Rebbe said after Yud Shvat Tavshin Yud Aleph, Tavshin Yud. And the Rebbe was always telling us that we have to look into the Torah of the Rebbe. And the Rebbe als bavornt, he forewarned everything. So let's examine a few of the things that the Rebbe said at that time. One thing the Rebbe said was that we should know after Yud Shvat, because the Frierdiker Rebbe also had gekocht in Mashiach, etc. And the Rebbe said that we should know that nothing has changed and everything is on track. And this is just part of the Chevli Mashiach, the birth pangs of Mashiach, and that we have to know that which the Frierdiker Rebbe said about we are on the threshold of Mashiach, nothing has changed. The Rebbe said then also a very, very sharp word, seemingly, and that this is one of the nisyonos that we have to have before the Geula, one of the trials and tribulations. So the question begs to be asked, didn't Am Yisrael have enough trials and tribulations, enough nisyonos, especially then shortly after the Holocaust? What is the meaning over here? I'd like to suggest, perhaps, first of all, let's go through some of the Rebbe's teachings. First and foremost, when it comes to Chodesh Tammuz, the Rebbe says that Chodesh Tammuz in Tofresh Pei Zayin in 1927, when the Frierdiker Rebbe was released from prison, revealed what is the inner theme of Chodesh Tammuz Be'emes. It's explained in the Likutei Sichos Chelik Yud Ches. You can look it up, the Sikh of Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tammuz, at great length. And in it also mentions Gimel Tammuz. Try to count how many times the Rebbe mentions in regards to Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tammuz, the Chag Agul of the Frierdiker Rebbe, mentioning V'hascholoso beGimel Tammuz, which all started on Gimel Tammuz. And how many times did the Rebbe speak publicly and also to people privately about the great Yom Tov of Gimel Tammuz, because this is the day when the Frierdiker Rebbe, his death sentence, Rachmana litzlan, was commuted, which for the Rebbe himself was a gewaldige Zach. The full Gula only came when he could be back with his Chassidim, but the day of Gimel Tammuz, what a great day it is in regards to the Frierdiker Rebbe. And the Rebbe explains in that Sikha that this is a philosophy of the Rebbe throughout, that the whole inyan of Golus is that there should be afterwards Geula and Geula Shleima. Churban Beis Hamikdash was that afterwards should be the ultimate Geula, the Beis Hamikdash Ashlishi, the eternal Beis Hamikdash. Many, many sikhs the Rebbe explaining this. And the Rebbe comes up with an amazing chiddush in that sikh about Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tammuz, that here we have Bepoel Mamish, even in the time of Golus, a tremendous Geula for Am Yisrael, for Torah and Mitzvahs, which is even in this man of Golus showing us that there is a Yom Tov in the Chodesh of Tammuz, which was up until then known as a Chodesh of Shivasa B'Tammuz of Churban Rachmana litzlan. And the Rebbe says in one of the Ha'aros over there, a very profound word, that this is in a way greater than that which it says that when Mashiach will come, so all the fast days associated with the Churban will be transformed. Yehovchu l'yomim tovim u'lemoyadim. So the Rebbe says in a way, Yud Beis Tammuz is greater because that's only going to happen. When will the fast days be transformed into a Yom Tov? That's only going to be when Mashiach comes. Now we have in Chodesh Tammuz, in the Zman of Golus, we have a tremendous Yom Tov, the Yom Tov of Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tammuz, which started on Gimel Tammuz. And the Rebbe also connects us. We know that the Chazal tell us that the first day of Pesach is the same day of the week as Tisha B'Av, because we should know that Tisha B'Av, and actually Tisha B'Av is the birthday of Mashiach, because the Indian of Churban is the Indian of Geula, which is the first Geula is Pesach. And the Rebbe says Shivasa B'Tammuz is also the same day of the week. For example, this week, the first day of Pesach was Thursday. And so today, Gimel Tammuz is Thursday, Tisha B'Av is Thursday, and Shivasa B'Tammuz, the beginning of the 3 weeks. And then the Rebbe mentions also and Gimel Tammuz. But to show the fact that they're on the same day of the week, that the inner Teichen, the inner theme of Tisha B'Av is the Indian of Pesach, the Indian of Geula. And so too, the Indian of, so Yud Beis Tammuz is B'Poele Yom Tov, transforming the whole Chodesh into a Chodesh of Geula in this Man HaGolus. That's how the Rebbe explains it over there. So it comes along Gimel Tammuz Tovshin and Daled, and what happened. Choshech, Siluk Shchina, confusion, and V'tzorech Chiyun. But let me tell you also that Gimel Tammuz has another gematria too. Gimel Tammuz has a gematria, which we say in davening in Baruch Shema every day. Chai lo'ad v'kayom lo netzach. Exactly those words are the gematria Gimel Tammuz. And not only is the Indian of Divrei Tzadikim Choyim v'kayomim lo'ad, and as the Friedrich Rebbe says in a Sicha, which I'd like to mention now, and you could look that up also because it's very empowering, and that's in Sefer Sichas Tov at the bottom of page 35 and over the page of top of the page 36, about when a Chassid remembers when one went into Yechidus to the Rebbe, so not only the words of the Rebbe and the brachas are eternal, but when a person fativ zayin zikaron, when a person thinks deeply in zayin zikaron about that Yechidus, so then the person is mo'el, the Rebbe's neshama, to come to him at that moment and to help that person at that moment, b'shas ma'aseh. The words there is that the Divrei Tzadikim is Kayomim Lo'ad. Let's get to the point. So comes Gimel Tammuz Tovshin and Dalet, a big confusion of V'tzorech Chiyun. So there's no question that the Rebbe is not going to in any way, Chas v'Sholem, change and do something opposite to what the Rebbe was mechadesh about what the whole Indian of Chodesh Tammuz now is an Indian from Geula. Perhaps we can get some insight from a Sicha that the Rebbe said. It was in Tovshin Mem, Pashas Vayechi. Pashas Vayechi is talking about Yaakov Avinu calling his sons together, and he gives them brachas before he passes on. And there, that's the Parsha of Yaakov Avinu Loi Mes Ma Zare B'Chaim Afu B'Chaim. And there it tells us that Bikesh Yaakov Legalis Esaketz Lebanav and Istalkum Mimena Hashchina. He wanted to tell them when Mashiach is going to come, but the Shechina departed from him. And you saw that Davish doesn't want the various Pirushim B'Dova. The Rebbe asked then Akasha, what's going on over here? It was Tovshin Mem when that Sikha was said. Yaakov Avinu wants to tell his children that it's going to be Tovshin Mem and Mashiach has not yet been revealed. That's what he wanted to tell them. What kind of a parting message is that? What kind of a chizuk is that? The explanation that the Rebbe gave is that the Rebbe says that Yaakov Avinu's kavana was no. He wants to tell them that they have a way of bringing the Geula quicker, to hasten the Geula, and that the Geula of Mitzrayim could be the final Geula. Yaakov Avinu wanted to be Megala, give them some type of, we call it, secret information, inside information, that there's a way that they could do their Avodah, and it'll be that it'll make the Geula happen quicker. But this would not be really B'koyach Atzmo. It would be with the help of Yaakov Avinu, because Yaakov Avinu was revealing them a secret, inside information. Says the Rebbe that the Eibishter didn't want that because the Geula has to be a Geula Shleima Mitzad HaTachten, and not that it comes Milamaylo. It doesn't come from above, it comes from the Avodah B'koyach Atzmo. And we know that this is, again, the message that the Rebbe imparted from the very beginning. From Yud Shvat Tovshin Yud Aleph, the Rebbe said, Medaf Alein Ton, and I'm not going to do the work for you, I'm only here to help you, and zusammen wollen wir ausquetschen the Geula. Together we will squeeze out the Geula. This is what the Rebbe said, tut als was ihr kennt. Chav Ches Nissen Tovshin and Aleph. And the Rebbe said, ich habe getan, als was ich habe gekannt, now I give it over to you, you have to do all what you can do. So the Rebbe says in a very powerful word in that Sicha, in Bikesh Yaakov Legalis Esaketz, We have to bring about a geula which will never change back into golus, an unchanging geula b'li shinuyim, with no change. In order for that to happen, the avodah of Am Yisrael has to be an unchanging avodah, always staying the same, even when the stalkum imenu shchina. Yaakov Avinu was going to give them a gilu shchina, and thereby help them in bringing the geula faster. But that's not going to bring a geula shlema. So the Rebbe says Yaakov Avinu didn't care. Abi the geula kumt free, as long as the geula will come sooner. So then let that be. But the Eibishter wants that it should be a geula shlema, a complete, perfect geula, which will be forever and nitzchi, eternal. And that has to be only when the geula, when the avodah is in an unchanging way, without any shinuyim, even when there's siluk shchina. And perhaps therefore we can understand what the Rebbe said then in Tafshin Yud. Nothing has changed, and we have to live that way. That all that which the Frierdiker Rebbe said about getting ready for Mashiach, nothing has changed and everything is on track. It has to be an unchanging avodah, to bring an unchanging geula which will never change back to golus. And perhaps this is the nisayon. It is a nisayon. Not perhaps. We see that it's a nisayon. It is a nisayon. It is very difficult to live in such a manner. And the Rebbe once expressed that also in the Farbrengen of Chamish Asa B'Shvat Tov Shel The Rebbe cried bitter tears and and how difficult it is to be in a moment of a chakalei b'chol yom sheyovai. Very emotional. But that is the Avodah. So comes Gimel Tammuz, and what happened, happened. But the message is that Gimel Tammuz is the Haskalta de Geula, the Tchila So Aliyah. Perhaps that this is the message that the Rebbe is giving us. You have to do the Avodah in an oifen of Loishon Nisi without any changes. Nothing has changed to bring about the Geula Shlema, but it's a Chodesh HaGeula, and it's a Zman HaGeula, and it's Gimel Tammuz, and as was mentioned already by the previous speaker about Shemesh Begivein Doim, the sun stopped, the greatest miracle of all time. All of these things are in the day of Gimel Tammuz, but we have to know that this is the Avodah, that nothing has changed. We have to take all of the koiches that the Rebbe gives us. The Rebbe says in the end of the Maim of Va'ata Tetzaveh, which many Chassidim around the world are learning today. Right at the end is again that the Raya Mehemne, the faithful shepherd, the Roya Nemon, the Moshe Rabbeinu Shebedur, the Rebbe of the Dur is giving us the koyach lahalois ner tomid, that to light a ner tomid, a constant ner, that it should be avoda bekoyach atzmoi, that the koyach atzmoi, that is again the thread that runs through the Rebbe's philosophy all the time. So b'meila, there's also a few words of a sikha from the Frierdiker Rebbe on Beis Nissen. It's the Yom HaYilula of the Rebbe Rashab, said here in America in Tafshin Gimel, I believe it is printed in Sefer Ma'amorim Tafshin Yudalev of the Frierdiker Rebbe, page 214, if you want to look it up. And it says as follows: Medarf wissen de koiches was wir haben. We have to know the koiches that we have. Dem koyach von Taten, the koyach of my father, says the Frierdiker Rebbe. That's the Rebbe Rashab. Von alle Rabbeim. From all the Rabbein, wenn man soll wissen, die Koiches, wollt sich anders gedaven, anders gelernt, anders geschlafen. If we would know the Koiches that we have, the Koiches of all the Rabbein, we would daven differently, we would learn differently, we'd even sleep differently. Wenn da wissen, die Koiches, was wir haben, und der Eibishter soll helfen. We have to know the Koiches that we have, and the Eibishter should help us. So therefore, I just want to conclude with a story which I tell very often. And I heard the story from my father, Zechrein Levracha, whose Yortzeit is Dalet Tammuz. And one time he was visiting in New York from Australia, and I believe it was Taka Chedesh Tammuz in the Chofs in the 60s. And he was waiting for Yechidus, and it was probably after Yubis Tammuz, and there were a lot of people there who were waiting for Yechidus. So Yechidus started always at 8 o'clock at night. In the summertime, there was a short break for Ma'ariv, and then it continued until everybody went through. So it was 6 a.m. in the morning. My father was waiting in Yechidus with another elderly chassid, And for some reason, I don't think any of the maskirim were at the door. And all of a sudden, the door opens and the Rebbe is walking out with his coat on. The Rebbe was going home. And he sees in Gan Eden HaTachton outside the Rebbe's room, two Chassidim still waiting. And he turns to them and he looks at them and he says, Yivart af mir? Are you waiting for me? Of course, they didn't say anything. And the Rebbe asks again, Yivart af mir? Are you waiting for me? And again, they didn't say anything. But the Rebbe understood. So the Rebbe turned around and he went back and he sat down and he continued Yechidus. By the time my father went in, it was half an hour, 45 minutes later, probably close to 7 a.m. or so. The father related that he could have thought that he was the first one at 8 p.m. the night before. The Rebbe was so fresh and so alert and so focused on him, he could have thought that he was the first one. The word is that the Rebbe said the words, Yivart af mir, are you waiting for me? Of course, we are all waiting for the Rebbe. And this leads to another sikh. I'm not going to elaborate. In Chelik Bey is Dvorim, where there the Rebbe started talking about the union of Tisha, etc. That when the Rav withdraws, it's only because he's about to reveal a greater oir, a greater seichel to the Talmud, and the Talmud is very broken. And for the Talmud, it's Churban Rahman al-Islam, but we have to stand with a tzimoin to the Rav, to a thirst and a yearning and a longing. We say in the Kiddusha of Shachris Shabbos, Mimkoimach Malkeinu Soifia V'Simloi Choleinu Ki Mechakim Anachnu Loch. We say that to the Eibishter and Malke Rabbanon, that we are waiting, Mosai Timlech B'Tzion, we Ki Mechakim Anachnu Loch, we are waiting for his galus of the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach may it be immediately now on this special day of Gimel Tammuz, Begolim wird sich sehen mit den Reben le'enei Bosor, wird sich sehen mit den Reben dolle Matte Naguf ole Matte Masora Tvochim, v'hu yigolenu immediately now, mamosh, mamosh, mamosh.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rabbi Groner. Thank you for reminding us and for teaching us the Rebbe's words, and that we have to do our part, each one of us. And I think it really, we always talk about how difficult it is. I don't think it really has to be so difficult. It's my personal opinion. I think if we all work together and everyone really tries their hardest, so we each personally work hard, yes, but if we all work together and we all try our hardest and we all really commit to getting our way out of this galus, we can do it. We can definitely make a way to find a way out. And truthfully, galus is not a natural state for Yidden. So if Geula is our natural state, that has to be the easiest and the most smooth way for us to go. And Emirta Hashem, it should happen right away. And we're going to end off with a final nigun from the very talented musicians. And this is a very freiliche nigun, and it should hopefully put us in the proper mode to greet Mashiach b'simcha tonight, now. Thank you again to the organizers, the speakers, Rabbi Dubov, Rabbi Afton, Rabbi Groner, Mrs. Maggie Rogatsky. Thank you to the Rebbe for everything. Tzadik Yisayid Eilam. And I just want to add a personal bakasha nafshis to Hashem that we're mevater the rechush gadol that He has prepared for us, and so that we can have the immediate geula, and that we ask of you, Hashem, that you should be mevater all the hana that you are getting from this way too lengthy process of geula. And so I thank you all again for participating. We should merit to be together tonight with the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach in the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi. Yechi Adonenu Moreinu V'Rabbeinu Melech HaMashiach Le'olam Va'ed.
יחי אדוננו מורינו ורבנו מלך המשיח
يا دينينا مرينا ربنا ملك المشيخ ليلا بعد
يحيى أدونينا مرينا ربنا ملك المشيخ ليلا بعد
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Asher Kayach.